Meanwhile, the second session of the United Nations Environmental Assembly got off to a serious start in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, today. Environment ministers and representatives from over 170 countries are discussing ways to solve the biggest issues affecting the planet. They have been reminded that inaction is not an option. I'm joined in our studios by Dr. Richard Monang, a coordinator for UNEP's Africa Climate Change Program. Dr. Monang, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Now, in recent times, we've seen African leaders show a strong level of commitment towards climate change goals and environmental sustainability. But is this translating into action?
Absolutely, and thank you very much for having me in studio. I think Africa have actually demonstrated environmental leadership, and before COP21, which was the Conference of Parties of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, which took place last December 2015, Africa came together as a continent, and during the African Ministerial Conference, which took place in 2015 in Cairo, Africa took a decision that they actually wanted the world to agree and come up with a package where the parity between adaptation and mitigation was actually going to be part of the agreement, and this actually happened in Paris Agreement. Also, before going to Paris, there was what was called the intended national determined contributions, which countries needed to submit. And before going to Paris, almost about 80% of African countries, 43 out of 53, had submitted this. So overarchingly, this has been leadership. And even during the Paris conference in December, the continent actually launched grand initiatives, one which was the African Adaptation Initiative and another which was the African Renewable Energy Initiative. So overarchingly, the continent has been leading.
Now, of course, with the Environmental Assembly taking place now in Nairobi, where does this pick up in terms of where, Paris COP left off?
Well, the UN Environment Assembly taking place in Nairobi, starting off today, is the Parliament of the Environment, and this provides an opportunity to discuss emerging issues, to discuss world agreements, for example, like the Paris Agreement, whereby the continent of Africa also have a stake. How can this be implemented through the lens of the environment? To discuss issues like air pollution, where currently, as we speak today, 600 Africans are actually losing their lives annually as a result of indoor air pollution and outdoor air pollution, and discuss how we move forward by transitioning to clean energy so that countries are actually moving towards a low carbon emission strategy pathways and creating opportunities.
On that note, the sort of efforts that we're seeing that are being pushed forward by environmental leaders across the continent, what impact are they having on questions around sustainable development and, of course, the eradication of poverty, both of which remain very important issues on the African continent? Excellent
question. The UN Environment Assembly is also going to look how the sustainable development could be delivered through the lens of the environment, as an assembly that is not just the authoritative assembly that sets the environmental agenda for the next 2 years, but when you dovetail these within the continent and within the African Agenda 2063, whereby poverty eradication and sustainable development is a very crucial issue. Looking internally how you could utilize environment to be able to address the sustainable development goals.